Welcome to the Ballybaloo Cookery School and to our spooky Halloween afternoon. I haven't had so much fun for years, really. Can I give you my broom? Thank you very much. And I'm also going to take off some of these costumes that I have on so that I can actually cook. So now so welcome to all of you. They're literally, but let's pop that on here. This is Pat. Can I introduce you to everybody? Pat Brown?
Hello.
He's the sorcerer's apprentice, or the witch's apprentice today. Good. So now, sorry, we have all this. We're going to take this one off as well. And is that back on here? It is. Yeah. Perfect. Now, so the other thing I was going to do actually, I'll tell you what we have. Oh yeah, I want to welcome first and foremost those of you from all over the world. And I have to tell you that there are people not only from Ireland, but from the UK, from the US, from Mexico. You'll be celebrating the Day of the Dead on the 31st. I've been in Mexico for those wonderful celebrations many times, and you really celebrate those who have passed on and go along to the graveyards and bring their favourite food and often have picnics there as well. So it's a cause of great celebration rather than too much spookiness. Also, there are people from the Netherlands, welcome to you. People from Switzerland, Brazil, Luxembourg, Germany and Mozambique. Imagine that, Pat. Somebody from Mozambique, so huge welcome to all of you, and I hope you'll enjoy our little session, our spooky session this afternoon. Also, I think Toby said to me, although I'm very attached to this hat, Toby, my son, who's behind the camera there, said to me the hat has to come off because basically you can't see my face when I have got my head down. So, okay, off comes the hat, Pat, there you are. And what I'm going to do is put on an Alice band, actually, so that I can keep, and there, I hope my spider doesn't fall. Oh, the spider's fallen off already. Well, anyway, never mind. Can't put it back on. Haven't got time to put it back on. Now, so I'll just tell you what we have lots and lots of treats in store for you. I know there are people of all ages actually watching this online class this afternoon. So we have something for children, for grown-ups. We have something particularly traditionally Irish, 2 dishes that are traditionally Irish for Halloween, and one of the ones that's most associated with Ireland is something called a brack. Now, there are 2 versions of this. There's a sort of one made with yeast, and there's another sort of which takes quite a long time to make and rise and all of that. And then there's another one which is much easier, and both children can help with it as well. And actually, it's called a tea brack because you start the day before, you gather up lots of lovely fresh fruit, and then you pour good strong tea over it, so that and then you leave it sitting for overnight probably, or if you forget about that, it could be even for a few hours until all that fruit plumps up. So you'll have the recipes anyway, but I'll tell you what's in here. There are sultanas, there are some raisins, there are currants, and then these are cherries. Now, actually, I know that a lot of the time when you expect to see candied cherries, you expect to see them bright red. But actually, these are real cherries which are candied, which are much darker in colour. They also cost a bit more, actually, too. But anyway, so what you do is you put the dried fruit and the cherries into a bowl and then cover them with hot tea. So I want about 10 fluid ounces of tea, Pat. So this is, don't you love my witch's teapot? There we are. So and good strong tea. This is tea very well known in Ireland. Comes from Cork, actually. Well, it's not grown in Cork. The tea leaves themselves aren't grown in Cork, but it's a very famous tea called Barry's tea. And I have no association with the company, just thought I'd mention it because everybody from Cork knows about Barry's tea. Okay, now, so this we leave to soak overnight. Now, Halloween is celebrated not just in Ireland, but all over the world in lots of different ways. And it's on the 31st of October, before we go into November. And that's when the spirits and the ghouls and the ghosts and all of the things are at their most active. Isn't that right, Pat? Absolutely. And there are lots of, every country has its own traditions and games and rituals that we do around Halloween. And I'll tell you about some of the ones we have in Ireland. Now, Pat has soaked the fruit for me, and you can see that the raisins are now lovely and fat and plump. Now, into this, I'm going to add some candied peel. This is the peel, citrus peel of orange and lemon. Actually, this is a homemade one here, but you can buy a good one as well and chop it up, and that will give you a lovely citrusy flavour as well. Now, into that, I'll take the flour as well, Pat. So into that, we're going to put an egg. We're going to whisk up 1 egg in my recipe. But some of our eggs at the moment are quite small because we're here in the middle of a 100-acre organic farm down on the south coast of Ireland, east of Cork, and in a place, as you know, called Ballymaloe, which means the town's land of sweet honey. And basically, because we're lucky enough to be on a farm, we have lots of our own hens running around out there, and the scraps from the morning's cooking get fed off into the hens, and they come back as eggs a few days later. And we have hens of different ages, and at the moment some of the young ones have just started to lay, and they're called pullets. And basically they lay small little eggs. So instead of having 1 egg here, I've got 2 eggs. Look, there we are. That's what we call a pullet's egg. Okay, good. Smaller, about half the size of a normal egg. Now, Pat, I'll take, if you don't mind, a wooden spoon, and then I'm going to add in some brown sugar. I'm going to add, thank you, a wooden spoon for a witch. There we are. What? Well, earlier on now, and thank you to Camilla, who has spent the afternoon dressing up our set for us here and everything. And when she was actually doing my face earlier, I was saying, well, I have to look like a witch. So there were lots of remarks about doesn't take too much to make you look like a witch and all of the rest. So there we are. Now we'll add in, now look how simple this is. We just soaked the fruit, we added in the candied peel to it, and then we're putting in the egg, and then just stir in the flour. Now the flour here is self-raising flour, 8 ounces of self-raising flour. You follow the line of measurements you're most familiar with. All of our recipes come in 3 lines of measurements. They come in imperial, pounds and ounces, and because I'm so ancient, perfect for this job actually, basically I'm in pounds and ounces in my head, but also, of course, that's imperial measurements. They also come in grams, and they also come in cups. So you follow the line of measurements that you're most familiar with. Now, we'll pop this into tins. Pat, I'll take the loaf tin for this. Thank you very much. Now, look, just stir it around. What could be easier? Now, the great thing about this brack as well, a brack or barn brack as it's called, is basically it keeps, I don't know, it keeps for weeks, I think, really. Really, really delicious. And so, look, it's quite runny like that there. So, thank you. Pop that to the side. Yep. Now, so you could cook this in a loaf tin. Now, this tin has been in and out of the oven for, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of times. It was originally silver. Okay, so it's black now. And you could do 3 little small barn bracks out of this quantity, or you could do just 1 big one. So we have some small ones made there, so I'm going to do a big one. Okay, put this in. And we've lined, let me just show you this for a minute, just so that it doesn't stick. We've just taken a bit of parchment paper and just cut into the end like that, so that it will be easy to fold the piece of parchment paper into the tin like that, so that it fits in perfectly. Now, all of this goes in. See, it's quite moist. There we go. Now, you can make this at any time of the year, but it's particularly traditional at Halloween. But at Halloween, it has something extra in it. So it has some surprises. So basically, the traditional thing would be you'd put a ring, wrap a ring up in it, and you see, Halloween is so much about fortune telling, or as sometimes is referred to as divination. In other words, that's you're telling you what lies ahead of you. Now, so obviously, this is a ring. Look, there we are, which Pat donated to this. So that's a ring. You wrap it up in a bit of parchment paper, and then you put it down there. Let's take a little knife or something, Pat. So the ring is one thing, I'll just pop it down. You're not to look where it is, you see, so you don't know where it is when you find it. This is a little bit of stick, which is wrapped a little piece of, it's actually a bit of a cocktail stick, so you just have to be careful with that. Wrap it up, pop that in. You warn people, of course, that these are in it. And then, so if you get the ring when you cut the barn brack, you're definitely going to be married within the year, even if you're only 6 or 7. Okay, that's it. Now, and then the stick, well, that's not such good news, because if you get married, your partner is going to beat you. Okay, so you want to watch out for that one. This one has a P in it. That means you're never, ever going to get married. Right, okay, there we are. And what's this one, Pat?
The rag.
Oh, it's a rag. Oh, yeah, that's not good news either, actually, because the rag means that basically you're going to be in poverty. Not so good, not so good. Okay, so look, very simple. We just pop this straight into an oven. And Pat, the oven is at what temperature for that? 180 centigrade, 350 Fahrenheit, or 4 in the gas. And then that will take what, about 50 minutes, will it?
About an hour to an hour and a quarter. We'll check it after an hour.
An hour to an hour and a quarter. And then we'll take it out.
If you're using pullet eggs, would you use 2?
Yes, we used 2 eggs. Sorry, the question here is, if you're using these little pullet eggs, would you use 2 eggs instead of the 1 in the recipe? Yes, and I used 2 eggs there, because that's why I was telling you about that, because actually I was using 2 instead of 1 because the eggs were so small. Now, so around Halloween, all the ghosts and the wizards and the all spiders, everything, they're all particularly active. And basically, we want to, what else is active now? I have to have a look there because of it all written down here on the thing. Anyway, the ghosts, the spirits, the witches, the goblins, all of that. And originally in Ireland, we reckoned that Halloween was connected to a very early pagan festival called Samhain. And that's when the spirits, as I said, were at their most active. Now, next we're going to make, Pat, shall I make a spider web cake? Would that be good?
Please.
Next, okay. So now, to make this cake, I'll just take the ingredients for this, if I may. So this, you can make this by hand, but if you, by any chance, have a food processor like this one here, or any one, you can put the whole lot into the food processor, all the ingredients into the food processor, and put the lid on, click it on carefully, and then whiz bang, and in a minute you have the cake mixture made. Now I'll talk about how you make it by hand if you don't have a food mixer. So I'll take the recipe for this spider web cake, okay. But this cake is a fantastic one to know about because you can ice it in a whole lot of different ways, do lots of different flavourings, even at different times of the year. So in here, Pat, I have some lovely Irish butter. So I have 175 grams of butter, and the butter is quite soft. And then some caster sugar, both of those are in there already. And then I'm also going to add in some eggs, and again, I'm using self-raising flour. Now, again, just to explain, self-raising flour has the raising agent in it already. Now, supposing you haven't got it, not everybody would have self-raising flour at home. So here this recipe says 175 grams, about 6 ounces of self-raising flour. Well, I'd put a kind of, I'd put a scant half teaspoon of baking powder if you don't have self-raising flour. So look, we're going to put the whole lot in here. But now I just put I'm putting the flour and everything in. Now that's definitely self-raising, Pat, is it? Yes. Okay, because I'll be disgraced if it doesn't raise, you see. There we are. And look, just to show you how simple it is, I'm literally going to crack the whole, actually it's safer to crack the eggs not off the edge of this in case you get a bit of shell in. Oh golly, I nearly dropped the whole thing in. There we are. Now, these are smallish eggs too, Pat, you know that? There we are. We have a lovely batch of new chicks actually as well at the moment. We got them about last week. They're called day-olds, and now they're under the lamp out there getting fatter and fatter. Now, okay, put the lid on. Now, one could put a little vanilla extract in here, Pat, if you wanted, or if you wanted chocolate one, or lemon zest, or orange zest, or whatever. But for this, I am not doing it. Look, pop the lid on, and then just whiz bang, whiz bang. So only literally take some minutes. Now, if it's a little bit, the egg definitely were a tiny bit small. So if you think it's, look, let me show you. If you think it's a bit too stiff, and that's definitely a bit too stiff, then add in either another small egg, or in this case I'm adding, I hope I'm not adding too much, a couple of tablespoons of milk into it. Do that in front of us, Pat, so we can see what's happening.
What I've done here basically is just taken a spring-bottomed 8-inch tin, buttered the bottom of it, and then cut a disc of parchment paper, put it in, butter it again, because we are from the land of to be sure, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't stick. Then we're going to get a little bit of flour.
Make sure the kids are in the kitchen with you doing this. Like
And just turn it
you can do.
like that, so you coat the whole out of the tin.
So why are we doing this?
We're doing it to ensure that the cake doesn't stick, and when it's cooked, you can just pop it up from the bottom, and it comes away evenly from the sides.
So this has a pop-up base there. Yeah, this is definitely, it's going to sure to be sure. Now look, this is a much better texture now. Look, do you see the way it's softer? A little bit softer there. I'm happy with that. And I actually put 2 tablespoons of milk in there just because the eggs were a tiny bit on the small side. You see, normally when you go along to the supermarket, all your eggs will be the same size. But when you have your own hens, as they say in Cork, they lays them big and they lays them small. Okay, there's actually a song about that, The Boys of Fair Hill, which is a great song, which I'm not going to sing, you'll be glad to hear. But basically, and then you would just take one big one, one small one to compensate. Look, now in we go here. Just spoon it all in here. And we'll pop it in. Now, Pat, a couple of really important things for baking. Anytime you're baking, it's important to remember that baking is an exact science. Whether you're 7 or whether you're 70, it's really important to actually measure the ingredients really, really carefully. So you want good, accurate scales. They don't have to be very expensive, but it needs to be accurate, and weigh everything. And then the other thing to do is to make sure that you have your oven fully preheated. And Pat, what temperature for this now? 180 again, 180 centigrade, 350 Fahrenheit, or 4 in the gas. And generally, we would, unless I had no option, we would generally use what Pat has just said there, a conventional oven rather than a fan oven for baking. If you have a fan oven, remember you need to reduce the temperature by 10 or 20% depending on what make of oven you have. That's really important to know. And also, but it's okay to use a fan oven if you have nothing else, but I wouldn't, if I had an option, I wouldn't, yes. Because it's actually a more drying heat. Fantastic for meringues and things like that. Now look, spread it out, and generally out to the edges like that, and we'll just make a little dip in the center, just because generally it rises a little more in the center, and then it should rise more or less flat. So there we are. Now Pat, which oven for this?
Bottom left.
Bottom left, okay. And I'll put it about halfway up, I suppose, Pat. Is that high enough, that rack there?
Slightly higher, actually,
Yeah,
just to center it.
About halfway in the oven, just to be sure. And then put on a pinger so that you, a timer, so that you'll actually, you won't forget it. Well, maybe all you with your young brains wouldn't forget it, but I have to have a pinger on all the time. And also, it's no harm to set it so it's, you know, to 4 or 5 minutes before the actual time it says in the recipe, because ovens vary, they really do vary. So your oven might be a little bit hotter than mine, etc., etc. When you go to all the trouble of actually making it, it's a pity if it gets burnt on you or something. And then be ready when it comes out, have a wire rack so that you can turn it out onto. We'll do that in a few minutes. Now, while the cake is cooking, I'm going to make an icing, and I'll use this icing for a couple of different things actually. I'm going to make a chocolate icing. It seems the most appropriate one for Halloween, good and dark and spooky. So basically, we do lots of chocolate icings, but this one is really good because first of all, it's not hugely expensive to make because it's made with cocoa, and but it has that lovely, nice dark flavor and so on as well. So now for this, we want 6 ounces of icing sugar, what you call in the US confectioner's sugar, or powder sugar in some other places. So we have the that in there, and then I've got 50 grams or 2 ounces of cocoa. That's in that bowl there. Now also I've got 75 grams of caster sugar, and I've got some water, 75 millilitres of water, and some butter. So chop up the butter in the water like that, put it on the heat, and then just it'll melt. The butter will melt in a couple of minutes, and then I'll stir in the caster sugar into it. Caster sugar, again, has different names in different countries. It's a finer sugar. It's not as granular. It's much more granular, of course, than the icing sugar, but it's not as granular as, for example, demerara, or a sugar you might, if you take sugar in your tea or something, you might use. So we're just going to stir this around. Again, not only important when you're baking to measure very accurately and have a good accurate oven, but it's also really, really important to use the best ingredients, the best quality ingredients that you can. So of course use butter rather than any of the other substitutes like margarine or something. If you're going to cook, it might as well be delicious, the most delicious, and it certainly needs to be good for you as well. And butter, from the point of view of your health and everything, much, much better than any of the alternatives, both flavour-wise and everything else as well. So the butter is almost melted there now, and adding in the caster sugar. You could make this ahead of time. As it sits, it thickens, but if it thickens too much, just add a little warm water into it. So we'll stir this around. It's just another little second to melt. Now, and then I also need to make another little icing for this, for the spider web. I'm going to make a little lemon glacé icing as well, and I'd say these are the ingredients for it here. So, well, maybe I shouldn't mix the two things up together because I'll only confuse people in people's minds. So, look, this is just melted. A watch pot, pardon? I'd like, well, maybe this will do me, yeah. Okay, no, this will maybe it'll do. Now, I'll need a little paper piping bag to pipe on the spider web. So look, take a piece of parchment paper, at least as big as this, if not bigger, and fold it into, is this an isosceles triangle, or what is it? It's a long time since I learned about isosceles triangles, but anyway, do it in a triangle, whoops-a-daisy, like that. And I'm actually using a serrated knife, and it'd be much better to use a non-serrated knife for that. Now look, we want to make, so if you want to make a paper icing bag, just put it down in front of you like that, put your finger opposite the point, then twirl it around like that and get the points together. And, oh sorry, it's just slipping on me. Bring the points together like that, then bring this piece round, bring the 2 points together at the back. Look, and then you want to tighten it so that there's no hole in the bottom. Tighten it like that, and then just fold the points together to sort of, so that it doesn't unravel on you. And then later on I can put whatever colour icing I feel into that. Now it's important that there's no hole in the bottom at this stage, because if there's a hole in the bottom at this stage, when I fill it, the icing will sort of pour out of it. Okay, now, may I take this for a second, Pat? That's grand. This is now just boiling. I'm just going to pour all of that in there. Take a plate and a little, so that I can put things. So here we go. The last little bit in, Pat. Yep. Now look at how lovely and dark and glossy this is, and so easy. Anybody of any age could make this, and this is fantastic on eclairs, on profiteroles, over pancakes, all sorts of things. Now there we go. So at the moment, this is more like a chocolate sauce. Look, it's sort of running like that, but basically it will thicken up as it sits. And what you could do actually is even rather than adding all of the liquid in there together, for this recipe you could have kept back a small little bit, kept it in a bowl, so that I could use it to stick on my, later on. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Now I'm going to put that aside for the moment. Just I'll cover it with a tea towel or something so it doesn't get a skin on it. So can I put that down there, Pat, or am I putting it on top of something else? Now, the other little icing that I need for this, for the spider's web, is just a straightforward glacé icing, and that could be just icing sugar. You could do it with boiling water if you wanted to, or if you like, if you want to have it less sweet, well then you could add in, I'll take a little wooden spoon if you have it, you could add a little bit of lemon juice in as well. So I'm just going to put a little lemon juice. Thank you. Now it's so easy to put too much in. And I generally say that and then actually put too much in by mistake. But because it takes very little, you want this to sort of pour out all right, but not to run all over the place, otherwise it's going to be too difficult to work with. Now, I wonder, do I need a tiny little bit more, maybe a weeny bit more, or else I could put, now hold on a minute, now to make sure I don't get it too. So add it in bit by bit. You can always add more, but if you make, look, you see, it's, even though it looked as though it was very dry, it's actually pretty fluid. It needs to be a tiny bit softer, but basically I'm going to do that closer to the time rather than run the risk of having it too runny. Now, so these, by the way, this is obviously a lemon peel. It could be orange peel, it could be grapefruit peel or anything like that. This one, the zest has already been taken off it for another recipe earlier, but don't throw these out. The hens, we have hens here, lots and lots of hens I mentioned earlier. The hens don't like these. They compost down all right. But basically, what we do with them is we don't throw them out. We actually, there's only just a few of this, the rest have been used. We put them into the bottom of my stove in my kitchen. It's an old aga. We dry them out, and then we make firelighters with them. And these are absolutely brilliant firelighters. They spark up, they've got a lovely orangey flavour. Just the thing for a lovely witch's warm fire for Halloween. You can throw in lots of and so there's a little tip for you. Rather than throwing these out and paying the council to take them away, basically you can try. You can see my thing is almost empty actually, but we literally have buckets of these and we dry them out. The other thing, of course, we make with leftover orange peel, but with the zest on, is the candied peel that we used already in the barn brack. Now, next I'm going to ice this cake. Now, hey presto, this is the magic, you see, of Halloween. The cake is ready already, imagine that. We better keep an eye on the one in the oven. So thank you, Pat. We have a little cake here. Oh, sorry. That's good. I'm just rubbing off just the dry crumbs off the bottom there. I'm just going to put those, and it's a good idea to put a tray underneath. There's a hen's bucket underneath here in case you're wondering where I'm throwing the things under the counter. There's a hen's bucket underneath. So look, pop that on top, and now I want to get myself all organized here so that I don't have to wait and put another. This is for. I'm going to put another little bit of, oh golly, I wonder if I made it too wet. I think I have. Having said I wouldn't, but anyway, it's nice and runny now, that's for sure. Now look, I'll put a little bit in here, and I'll need scissors or something, Pat, and I'll need a spoon, because I think I'm not going to manage. Maybe I'll manage this. You see, it's so runny now. There we are. Oh, I can't believe it. This definitely is a bit run. Maybe I should put more. We'll see. And it's going all over me and the piping bag and everything else as well. But anyway. Now, so now don't fill the bag too full or it'll squish out everywhere on you. Now, I'll just take a little, no, I need something to wipe my hands with. Thank you very much. Thanks a million. Thank you. Now, just fold over the top like that. Fold it over. There's a little bit of icing coming down. Now, at this stage, you can just snip off a little tiny bit of the top so that you'll be able to pipe it out. No, I think it's actually fine, says me. I'm rather relieved about that. Now, so we need some icing then. Lovely. Now, Pat, do I need this? I suppose I could have let cool a bit longer. Are you sure it's not going to run straight off the top of the cake on me?
I think we better
Let's put
wait.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Just wait a minute, or I can transfer it to another bowl.
no, that's okay. It's not a problem. What we could do is we could actually, now normally there's no problem with this because you just leave it sitting for a while, and you see it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be ready as quick as this normally. It's because the cake is still in the oven. Okay, so now I have two choices. I can actually leave it and ice it later, or we could put a little bit of icing sugar. Do you know, I'm going to leave it and ice it a little bit later. But do you know what I can do, Pat? I can put on my spooky meringues or spooky pukas. So I'm going to put that to the side. There we are. You don't have to change anything because the cake would still be in the oven and so on. Now, while Pat is getting me the other things for these spooky pukas. Pukas are like, it's an Irish word for snails or things like that, things with shells in them. Basically, I'm going to tell you very quickly, go back to the cake for a second, because supposing you don't, and many people wouldn't have one of those food processors, well, you can make it by hand. You simply make sure the butter is lovely and soft, put it into a bowl, and beat it quite a lot until it's lovely and soft with a wooden spoon. Add in the caster sugar, continue to beating. This is where you want lots of people around you, so everybody takes a turn at creaming the butter and the sugar. When it's lovely and light and fluffy, then add in 1 egg, beat that in very well. When that's beaten in, add another one, and so on until they're all beaten in, and then just add in the flour, sieve in the flour, but stir it slowly, because if you add the flour too fast, or if you beat it too hard, the cake will be quite heavy and dense in texture. So you can beat like mad early on, but once you are putting in the flour, stir the flour in slowly so that the mixture will be lovely and light and fluffy. Now, so that's my cake there. Now, so jumping onto the spooky meringue pukas, and we're going to make some chocolate soil to go with these. And so basically, I have here some egg white. I'm doing double the recipe because if you make it in a mixer like this, 2 egg whites with 4 ounces of caster sugar is actually too little for the whisk to take up. So I'm just going to put the whole lot in together. There we are. It says, I think, in the recipe to put half it in first and then fold in the other half. I want to make it as easy as possible for you. Put the whole lot. This is caster sugar. So we'd start by breaking up. Look, I'll just show you the egg whites there. Breaking up the egg whites a little bit. Just turn it on. I'm going to send this out to the back in a minute so that it's not too noisy, but just turn it on to break it up a little bit. Now, so at this stage, it's still very thin and everything, but we're going to send this out and continue to beat it up for, I suppose, about 5 minutes or so, so it won't be quite so noisy. And then we can, when it comes to a really stiff peak, then we can pipe out any shape we want. And then, so I'm going to make little kind of ghosty, spooky things. Now, Pat, I'll have a look at the, no, it's still not cool enough. Do you know something? Could you just put that into the cold room for a minute or two? We're taking desperate measures here now. So in the meantime then, I'll make something else. Now, this is the most magical thing, particularly for children. So I'm going to have these little spooky pukas, look like over here. I'm going to have these on a bed of chocolate soil. So the soil, or what you call in America dirt, is like what we're all totally dependent on all around the world. That soil that the grass grows on, that the animals eat the grass from, and so on. Basically, we'll make this out of chocolate, and we're going to put our puka sitting up on top of it. Okay, now, so you want a nice heavy bottom saucepan. There we go, that there. And now, what's really good for this actually is to have a little thermometer. Now, you could judge it by eye, but certainly if you're starting off, I think it's a good idea to have a thermometer. Now, so what we do is we have 100 grams of caster sugar, and into that we're going to put 2 tablespoons of water and stir it round. Give it a quick stir, but try not to get crystals on the edge of the saucepan. Now, choose a really heavy bottom saucepan for this. This saucepan we have is quite a heavy bottom saucepan. The sugar will melt and then it'll start to boil and bubble, but don't go away from this. This only takes a minute or two. And then the other thing you want to have ready is your chocolate. So this is a really lovely chocolate. Again, try and get really good chocolate for this if you can. At least 55, it could be 60.
That's 62%.
This is 62%. It could be a milk chocolate, which would be under 50, 45 to 50, whatever you like. But this one is a really beautiful chocolate, actually, and a little bit on the dark side. So anyway, we're stirring this round, Pat, now, and it's just the sugar is dissolving a little bit. And then what we want is when it comes to the boil, we want it to reach 135 centigrade. If you don't have a thermometer, how would you work this out? Basically, it starts to get very lightly golden.
Really
That's a
light
very
golden.
bad a scar you have on your forehead there, Pat. Somebody must have given you a blow of an axe or something. There we go. So we have to wait now for a little minute until this becomes, just gets a little bit golden, and it will come to 135 centigrade. And then you have to work fast. We'll just shoot the chocolate in. Now, I want something to turn it out on, Pat, otherwise I'll be in trouble. Yep.
You can use parchment so you can reuse it over and over.
Okay, I see. Right, okay. One parchment now.
Do you have any other suggestions, Darina, what you could use instead of wood sorrel for the decorations?
Well now, actually let me show you wood sorrel. Have you got a bit of wood sorrel here? Wood sorrel I particularly love because this grows out in the wood or whatever, or down in the greenhouses. And I love it because look, they're like little shamrocks, look, like that. And it's got this sort of slightly bitter, clean, lemony, bitter taste. But look, if you don't have this, it could be, it's just to have little something that looks like a little grass or little things coming up to the chocolate soil. So you could use a little mint or lemon balm, or sweet Sicily is another. Actually, I don't know if I have any of it here, but it's a lovely little kind of fern-like herb that would be delicious too. So that's wood sorrel. Now the sorrels are all very, very good for you and very delicious, and they have that kind of bitter, slightly lemony taste that seems to link in with Halloween as well. Okay, now, so at this stage, the whole surface is covered with bubbles, and that's, if we were doing something else, it would be called, oh yeah, look, there's sweet Sicily. You see, that's also lovely. I put it down there. It's, the lemon verbena is lovely too. Sweet Sicily is almost like a sort of like a little ferny plant, and it's sweet as the thing says. Look, just beginning to turn a little, I don't know if you, hopefully you can see that, a little golden at the edges, so we're not far off. So I'm just going to put my thermometer in. Tip in, and I want, as far as I remember, 135. That's right. I'm going to give it a little swirl around. Oh, wait, no, go back here. 100. Oh, it's going backwards. Oh no, it's going back up again. 130, 131, 132. We're getting there. Yoo-hoo. 3. 135, there we go. So we'll turn it off now and then shoot the chocolate, give it a little stir around, shoot the chocolate in and stir it around, keep on stirring. So wait, now I wasn't meant to turn off the heat there. Keep on stirring it around and look what happens. It changes into soil. Isn't that magic? That's witchy magic. Look, there we go. Beautiful, delicious chocolate soil that is really, that's really good and fun, and you can use it for lots of different things to sprinkle over other things too. So there we are. We'll give that a little wipe out. Great. Give you that, Pat. I'll take a fork or a spoon or something just to, look, It's quite like sort of sandy. Isn't that just magic? I can imagine that a lot of children of all ages will love making that. So that's the chocolate soil, and I'm going to use that in a couple of minutes to, well, a little bit later, to put my, look, for example, we could put them sitting like that, you see, on top. We'll do that a little bit later. Okay, Pat, where will I put this? Now I need a space to put it. Now, how am I doing on that chocolate icing? Can I go back to this? So these thermometers are widely available now, and they're not very expensive. And if you buy one, you know, you can use it, of course, for testing whether meat is done and at a certain temperature, etc. So it's useful for lots of different things. Now, I'm just going to put that to the side at the moment. Now, while Pat's out and while I'm waiting for him to come back in again, let me tell you, we had, as children, Halloween was also very important, and it's a long time ago since I was a child, okay? But today I'm very, very childlike all over again. So we had lots and lots of games we used to play, all very simple games. We might hang an apple out of a string out of the ceiling, and we'd be blindfolded, and you'd sort of go around trying to take a bite out of the apple, and whoever managed to get it, and it would keep on moving, and you know, whoever managed to take a bite out of the apple could have the apple. Now, you might say, so what? But I can tell you, a ripe apple, when I was a child, was something very special, because we didn't have, we certainly couldn't take for granted so much of the luxuries that are available to everybody nowadays. Another time we'd put a great big basin of water on the floor and then put apples in that, and you'd kneel down, again blindfolded, and try and catch an apple with your teeth. Sort of thing you certainly mustn't do during the COVID pandemic, perhaps. Okay. Then there was another lovely one we used to like. Again, you'd be blindfolded, and there were 5 saucers, like there are here in front of me. And on one of them, there was some clay, and this one here has a ring, a stick, a pea, and again a rag. Now, you remember from earlier on, the rag meant that you were going to be in penury for the rest of your life. The pea meant that you were going to be single, and that might be a blessing in some ways. Then the stick was bad news, because whoever you shacked up with was going to actually probably beat you. The ring meant you were going to be married within the year. And this one here was very bad news. This was some clay. So when you were blindfolded and you'd be feeling around, whichever one you put your hand on, then, you know, so much of Halloween was about telling fortunes or divination or something. So this one, if you put your hand in the soil, well, you were going to pop your socks. That was it. Pop your socks before the end of the year. So that's it there. Now, so that was a lovely and very simple, a little game that you can play without any expense or anything like that. So now let's go back to the, well, I wonder.
I think we might hold, I might bring a meringue, Darina.
Yes, bring me in the meringue, and I'll put this back into the cold room for another little minute. Yeah, still another minute for that. And how's my cake doing? Yeah, the cake is still in the oven, still not ready. So what am I looking out for? Well, first and foremost, it'll get, I can't remember exactly how long we were going to leave it in the oven for. Here it is. So yes, 25 to 30 minutes. So about 25 minutes, I'll have a little look. What we'd be looking for with the cake would be to make sure that it's obviously fully cooked through. At that stage, it'll be starting to shrink in from the side of the tin. And if I put a skewer in the middle, it should come out clean. But there's another thing as well. Okay, now here we go. This cake, we have to wait another minute. Now, this is the meringue that I sent out. And so, yes, that'll be perfect. I think maybe, yeah, it doesn't, yes, for this I'm going to use a round nozzle. Of course you could use one of the rose nozzles either, but I'm going to use the medium-sized one rather than the very large one, I think. Yeah, okay. Now, so the meringue at this stage has just, you know, it can literally, you could turn it out of the bowl, and you want it to hold what we call a stiff peak. So when you take it out, it should hold a stiff peak like that, lovely, lovely and stiff. Now you can colour this with any colour, any food colouring you want, and make it even spookier if you like. But we're going to I'm just going to shake off I'm always telling people not to do not to do that because you damage the thing. But anyway, so now this is a piping bag. So basically, sometimes people like to put it into a tall, to fill it into a tall measure or something like that. That's one way of doing it. But otherwise, you can just hold it like that, fold it down over your hand like that. Now push the pipe, whatever pipe you choose, right down into the bottom so that it's well secured like that. And then we'll just fill it with the meringue. Now, with the meringue now you can do any shape you want really. You can make it into individual things, into discs, into a heart shape, into a witch's shape, into any shape you like. So just push this down into the bottom. You're folding it back so you don't get yourself all covered with the meringue as well as everything else. There we go. And then bring up the sides. I'll take that to the side, Pat. Now I need something just to pipe this onto. So you can just push all the meringue down to the bottom like that. And then gather up the edges. Now, so hold the bag between your thumb and your first finger, like that. And then if you're tempted to use your other hand to kind of guide the bag, but you'd be better to try and always keep that behind your back. And then with your fingers, put the pressure on with your fingers. And you can, now what I want for this, Pat, I want some pukas. And I also want, yes, I'm going to make some wizard's hats later on. So I need a sort of tall bit for that. So you can either, you can, if you want to, you can build it up like this, or you can just do it straight. Oh gosh, that's definitely a wizard's hat. Maybe I should have used the bigger one actually.
Darina, if you wanted to get that sort of marshmallowy consistency in a meringue, would you cook it for less time?
Less time, that's right. Less time. So now the wizard hats are like, oh golly. Oh, this looks like
falling over.
But actually, Pat, I actually should have made it with a bigger bag for the other ones. But anyway, so they can be, sorry, they can, oh, I'm making a terrible mess of this. Just push it out and pull it up then, yeah. Push it out and pull it up. I'm getting better at it. There we are. Good. No, definitely, it's the bigger sort of what we call the eclair nozzle that would be better for this. But I like that. I like that one because that's going to be, it's going to be held to actually ice. So that's the problem. Okay, so we can do little baby ones if you want. Oh, much more difficult one with the smaller pipe. Yeah. Look, I can pipe some more of this into that.
If you just want to do one or two more, because
yeah.
I have some done. So.
You have some done already. Okay. Now, will you? I should know this because I did ones earlier and think. Now, so this is a bigger nozzle. So, oh no, I'm jinxed. Good. That's for a wizard's hat. These are going to be little pukas, those little smaller ones. And pull it up at a point. There we go. A small one. And so on. That's saying something about the cake.
Yes.
Good. Now these then will pop into the oven. You can make these days ahead. They last for ages. And we can decorate them in all sorts of different ways. The ones you made earlier are much nicer than mine, Pat. There we are.
I think the fairies have gotten into yours.
I know. Oh, no, that's not bad, that one. I'm getting good at it. There we are. You'd think I never used a piping bag in my life before. There we go. Right, okay. Now, super duper. So, Pat, we'll put these. Now, here's where a fan oven comes into play, because the fan oven is a more drying heat, and we can, it will dry these out. That's exactly what we want. But if you want them softer in the center, you can, of course, they'll get crispy on the outside, but you can cook them for a shorter time. And that would be lovely too. Now, let's, how about this cake at this stage? Well, you look at my cake first.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a scary spider on the oven. Right, okay. Good.
I think we'll do another minute.
Yeah, it's starting to come away from the edges of the tin. We might be all right. Ups daisy. So that's the first thing. You see it's beginning to come in from the edge. Also, press the edge of the cake like that, and you see the texture, then press in the center. Now, I think actually this is cooked, Pat. So it should be the same texture in both places. If it's softer in the middle or if an indentation stays, then basically it needs a little longer. So put your skewer in, take it out, and it should be come out completely clean. If there's any kind of little crumbs or anything on it, well, then it needs to go back in for a few minutes. So you could leave it if you wanted in the tin for a minute or two before taking it out, or shall I take it out?
Yeah.
No. And maybe if I had another wire rack, that would be quite a good idea.
Yeah.
So put another wire rack on top. If you have another one, turn it upside down like that. And then you can just lift off. In fact, it's no harm before you do this to just make sure it's loose enough around the edges, which it is really here. And now, with a palette knife or with a knife, I can just literally lift this off. I'll give you that one. We'll lift this off. I'll take the wire rack if I could.
Yeah.
And then we need to lift it, turn it back again the other way up. Okay, like that. And you need to do that quite quickly, because if you leave it for too long, it'll get marked with the grids from the wire rack. So that's hot now, and obviously too hot to ice. So we'll put that aside to cool off, and then you can ice it with whatever way you want. And honestly, it's really handy to have one of those in the freezer, because it freezes perfectly. You can take it out and let it defrost it, ice it whatever way you want. And we always have some of those in the freezer. We use them up within a week or so, but just for birthday cakes and things like that as well, or for a spooky Halloween cake. Now, so how are we doing?
I think maybe another minute. I'll show you the icing, but I think maybe two more minutes.
Mind you that at home, you'd have taken your cake out of the oven, you'd have to cool it before you iced it. Are we okay?
No.
No?
The paper that you were using on your...
A little, what was the paper I was using? The paper was what's called parchment paper, and it's a non-stick paper. And actually, in many cases, we use it over and over again. When we're making meringues, you can make a batch, and the meringues lift off it easily when they're cooked, and then you can fold it up, put it in your drawer, and use it the next time. You could use it 8 or 10 times over. So now, there we go. Now, okay, so I'm going to postpone icing that cake for another few minutes, and we're going to go on to either Halloween hag's hats or wizard's hats, whichever you like to call them. Now there's 3 different things in this recipe. We start off by making a biscuit, which this is a very good recipe for a biscuit base, because you can use it not only for this, but we will also make some tombstones, and you can make ghouls and various other things from it as well. Now, so the recipe for this, the biscuit has 175 grams of plain white flour. Then we want some butter. Just cube the butter, or if you wanted, if you have very hard butter, you could actually grate it on the side of a box, on the side of a box grater like that. Grate it in, and that's a kind of a little tip to do it faster. But my butter is chopped up here, and then we want some caster sugar and a couple of eggs. So again, we'll toss in the cubes of butter, and this is a little technique in this, because this is what's called making something by the rubbing in method. It's the same as you might use for scones or something. So a nice wide bowl, and instead of doing this kind of pinching action like that, put your hands in underneath, and now lift it up, and with your thumb run your thumb across your middle fingers like that. And when you lift it up and you put your hands in like that, rather than doing this, when you lift it up, you're getting extra air in as well. So whatever you're making will be lighter. So look, each time the bits of butter get smaller. This is a really good biscuit, and actually they keep really well too, because some biscuits, you know, you make them, they're absolutely delicious when they come out of the oven on the day, and then they get a bit sort of soggy or whatever, but these keep really well. Now, so just rub it in like that, and just make sure that there's no huge big bits in it. If you're wondering whether it's rubbed in enough or not, just shake the bowl like that, and if the bigger bits will come to the top. So again, little fingers can do this, and then you'll have fun. Get your rolling pins ready so that you can roll it out. Now I've got flour all over me. Now at this stage, add in some caster sugar, add that round, and then we'll just bring it together with some egg. So I need possibly a fork, which I don't have, but I'll get one in a minute when Pat comes back in. So we'll put this in. Pat, could I have a fork just to bring this together if I could, please? Thank you very much. So just bring it together like that, and then gather it up, a little bit of flour if you have it there, Pat. That's lovely. A flour dredger. Yeah, there's no problem. I probably went out the back. Just gather it up like that. A little bit of flour. Into a bowl like that. Just comes together nicely. And then, if you have time, let it, put it into the fridge, let it rest a bit before you roll it out. So pop that on there and into the fridge. Flatten it out so into more or less the round that you, lovely. And I'm going to, I'm just going to rinse off my hands, the dough off my hands. And now, and then come back again in a second. Now we can roll, Pat has one that's been chilled a bit, so we can roll this out and I can do several different shapes. In fact, I had a whole big box of lovely cookie cutters, different shapes that Jenny gave me to use with all kinds of spooky things in it. But you don't necessarily even need cutters for this. You could, in fact, although it's lovely to have them, but you could actually use even the top of a glass. Now, when I was a child, many people had very little in the way of material goods, and a lot of people wouldn't even have had a rolling pin. But there was always a bottle in the house, maybe a whiskey bottle or something, and you could roll out the dough with a whiskey bottle. And if you didn't have any fancy cutter, and many people wouldn't have had, well, they could have used the top of a glass or something. So now, so we'll roll this out. And we want a little bit of flour underneath so that it doesn't stick. Tiny bit of flour in the pin if you like. Now, there's several types of rolling pins. There's also a solid rolling pin, which I have down here as well. And yeah, it's not, and this one has ball bearings in it, which it's my favorite pin, and it's been burnt on one edge, but still I use it over and over again. Now, this one is not necessarily better than this or vice versa. It's just whichever one you feel most comfortable with. So if it's a solid pin, you roll your hands backwards and forwards on it like that. But if it's one with ball bearings, it rolls around itself. I'll give you that, Pat. Now, right. Oops, a daisy. Now, tiny. Now try and make sure it's even thickness. So you can, any of the shapes, or if you have lovely cutters that you want to use, you can use this biscuit base for it. Now, so I need a 3-inch cutter. Lovely. This one looks like a witch got at it to nibble it. I don't have one that is. I don't have one. What?
For those.
Right, or grand, lovely.
this
Well, I can. Mine is nearly fluted by the look of it. There we are. Now, and then also I had a cross there, and where's that one?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I can't find it.
We had it earlier because that was really good for making a little crosses, and then in the middle you could make a tombstone, you see. Now, there we go. Oh, well done, fantastic. Thanks, Tiffany. Now, pop them. You don't necessarily have to put you don't have to grease the baking tray or anything, but just leave a little space between them because they'll spread just a tiny bit. They'll also rise a little as well. So it's kind of around 1/4 of an inch, I suppose, maybe some of them a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch. Then, there we are. Oh, wait, no, I haven't done this right. If I do them side by side, let me show you here. Like that. These are gravestones they're going to be. And I'm trying to show you how you can get another one in here. We'll put it down a bit, yeah. Lovely. There we go. It's another one. Careful not to break it while it's coming out. Good. And here you see then, and I'll take the top off that because I hadn't got them in a line, you can have another little one, which you can just have a little slab like that, or if you want, you can just round it off at the top like that. How spooky is this? But anyway, there we go. Right, and so on. So we'll do a couple more. This is great. Kids can just roll up the extra little bits and roll it out again. Look, there's another one here. Have I got any of those other cutters? I must have put them away. Just give me see what else is there. There's another Halloween-y type of one or something.
An apple?
Well, it's a pumpkin. That would be pretty good. Look, here's a bat. Oh, that would be good. Look, that would be lovely. Let's get the bat out. Here we are. There he is.
Little ghost.
Oh, a ghost. Oh, definitely we want a ghost. Yeah, I'll have a ghost. Oh, maybe that's a small... Can you get that bat out? In fact, I may not have enough. Look, we'll do this ghosty one. Here he is. He's fine. Lovely. Now, and thank you, Jenny, for loaning us these cutters. Right, now I just want to push it down gently there. More hurry, less speed. Now, and I don't want to break off his little hand, this ghost, or whatever bit of him. Is that a hand or what is it? Some part of him anyway. There we go. Right, and oh yeah, I can just about get that little bat. Maybe you could make, if you're making bats, maybe you could roll it out even a little bit thicker than that. There we are. Good. Now the thing is that different size ones are going to cook at different rate as well, so we have to be careful we don't overcook them. Now I find that this needs to go quite high in the oven. What is it again, moderate?
Moderate, 180.
180 centigrade, 350 Fahrenheit, or 4 on the gas again. And so we'll just roll up that. We can do some more of those at the side and so on. Good. So we'll cook these, and they are going to take how long in the oven?
They will take
10, 12 minutes?
Well, we'll get them after 15. They could be 20, but we may have to turn the tray as well.
That they may, as high up in the oven as that, they may take a little bit less time. So we'll set it for, why don't we set it for 10 minutes, and then we set it for another 5 and 5, just depending. Let's give that a wipe down. Oh, I'm all covered with flour. I'm a baking witch. There we go. Now, thank you. Now, what next?
When you say high in the oven, do you mean high temperature or high position?
Ah, very good question. When I say high in the oven, actually that high temperature, do I mean high temperature or do I mean high in the oven? I'm actually, it's one of the, I racks in the oven, the second from the top, because there's an egg in it, they brown quite quickly, and they tend to sometimes, if you do them lower in the oven, it's a really important question actually, they get much darker on the bottom and they're paler on the top. But if you cook them higher up in the oven, they tend to, get nice uniformly golden. Yeah, let's try these. Now, actually, the funny thing is the icing that wasn't too set would be good for this. Okay. Now, here we are. So when they come out of the oven, then we'll have the biscuit like that. This is for the witches' hats or the hags' hats. And then we'll put the little meringue top on it like that. We'll just take a little.
The other one over there just made a head.
No, I could take a little bit of this one just to stick on. Now look, just take a little bit of a thicker chocolate icing and pop that there like that to stick onto the base biscuit. Oops, oh, that one's already, we did that one earlier. And then this one, another little bit. Now, here we go. So far, so good. Now, we can also, for this pat, now the opposite thing here, this needs to be a little bit thinner. This is the same icing recipe, but it was made a little bit thicker. So if it gets too thick, you can see how, actually this would be perfect for the cake. But anyway, there we are. This is the goblins and the witches are getting in the way. There we are. Now, so I want it not too thick. It just needs to be thinned a little bit so that it'll run out all over the top of these. Now you can see here that I have all of these sitting on a wire rack over a tray. So now I want to just tell you, I want to be really careful now here. Right. So I'm just going to, and give me a palette knife as well, yeah. I'm just going to try one for a second. Give me one of these spoons. Yeah, that's perfect. This big spoon really is, it's a bit too big for this job. Yeah, I'll put that there. So I'll do one with a little, no, it's definitely a bit too thick. So what you could do though with these ones, for example, you could just take a little, spread it over them like that. With a little, I have a lovely little small palette knife here. Now, this chocolate icing is rich, so you really don't want to have too much, because otherwise the whole thing is just too rich. So pop it on there and it'll soften out. So and this is where the whole kitchen, everybody else has lots of fun, but everything gets plastered with chocolate icing everywhere. But that's okay too. Now, so you have a choice. You can spread it on with a little knife or a palette knife or a spoon like this, or you can pour it over it. So just going to put another little bit on here. Not being particularly professional about this, but anyway, nonetheless. Now, I'm actually going to thin this out a little bit at this stage. And again, so here it is, but it's still a bit thick for what I wanted, believe it or not. Tiny bit more. It's over there. Now, so we'll see how we go with that. So take it and just pour some over the top, all over the witch's hat. Now remember, you have it sitting on a wire rack, so you can catch the extra icing. There we go. And so on. I think, and then I think it could be even a little tiny bit thinner, but because if it's too thin, it keeps on running off. You see, so that can be a bit of a pain too. Now you can also, if you want, make a little bright orange water icing, and then when this sets a bit, you can pipe a little orange bow around the outside. Now this is going pretty good actually. They're nice when they topple over like that, but then you have to make sure you get the icing in, and I can't quite see there underneath. There's one that I did yesterday that looks more like a Harry Potter hat than a witch's one, but anyway, that's okay too. And so on. So here we are. Now let's put some of this into a piping bag. So even with these, I can just pipe, without having the icing on them, I can pipe it on. I can pipe little, there we go. Yeah. Now, can you see any white spots from your side? Ah, yeah, there's a little white. Okay. I see it here. I'll turn it around here so I can see it. Yep, this one has a little bald spot underneath. Yep. Now be sure to scrape up the chocolate icing from underneath. Now these would be particularly lovely if they were soft meringue in the center. Actually, that would be really nice. So let's take this here again, back on here. Now, so
Squished my piping bag.
what?
I squished my piping bag.
This was my. I need a bit more of the white one too. Look, I'll just do. Actually, really, you ought to wait until these are a bit more set.
When is the ones you made earlier?
What?
When you use these?
Oh, how ghoulish is this? But anyway, R.I.P. is that one there, and then we could. With some of the, have I got any that looked like, oh yeah, give me another round, Pat, if I could, because then I can do a very simple one. No, I need a round, if you have it. Oh, I should have kept one. Because, pass me those over, so if you don't mind. Yeah, so here, again, it might be easier for little children if you have just a round biscuit. And you can make a little piping bag like this. And with chocolate, have you got one with chocolate in it, Pat? Yeah, you can then put, if you wanted, you could put, I've seen people put one of those well-known little chocolate toffee things starting with an R in the center there. And then you can just, if you want, you can just literally pipe the chocolate, like the little legs, so that it looks like a spider. So we did that one earlier. Here I have some, with this one here. Now I can just with the, it's quite big, the, there we are. Good. And or whatever you want on it. If you have the different, like this is a one here, just is a plain one, and it just has boo written on it. Or it could have, you could put a little scary face or whatever if you wanted to. While I'm at this, have you got any meringues that I could do?
Yes,
That'd be good. Now.
Now, that was 9 minutes on our
biscuits. I see. So these are now, so you can actually see this, even though this was quite high in the oven, you can see that these are cooking better from the underneath than from the top. So it could even have been on the very, very highest one there.
Yeah.
I think if we turn these over, you'll see the same. So they're actually cooked on the other side. These ones I'll put back in for another minute, but we'll take, and see how easily they lift off the baking tray. So these actually need, yeah, they are. They need to go, these need to go onto a wire rack right away. Good. Super duper. How long was that, Pat?
That was 8 minutes.
8 minutes,
Yep.
right. So it depends on the oven. I'll take, thank you very much. Could I have a little cloth there, Tiffin, just to give that a wipe? Now, so, and I had a little, oh, here it is. Perfect. That's good. So we can just do some eyes. There we go. And we'll do a big ooh for mouth as well. So there we are. Good, and so on. So again, this is lots of fun for everybody. Well, this one's just about to come apart. We'll give this one eyebrows as well. Rather shaggy eyebrows. But there we go. And so on. So you can have, everybody can have fun with these. I've got quite a big opening on the top of this one, so it's not that easy to do very small ones. Okay. And I've got myself plastered with chocolate as well, so I am not a good example. This will give this one a smile, actually. There we go. Right. Now, so there are the little spookers. Back to this cake that we keep promising you we're going to. Now, have we any orange icing or not, Pat? No.
Not at the minute, no. I'm just going to move these out of your way for a second.
This is, now we're too stiff with this. Now, so I'm going to put you off making chocolate icing forever, because now this is too stiff. So just, but again, I suppose it's good to show you a little bit. Yeah, in fact, the texture, no, a bit more than a little bit. Yeah. No, I need more than that. Yeah, just, yeah. Like what I had a minute ago, funnily now, was actually exactly right. So another bit again.
Not much more.
I need more again. Because it needs to pour over the cake, yeah. Now, we have a palette knife beside us as well. Let's see. Yeah, this should be good. On we go. At long last. There we are. Now, so pour the icing over the cake, like that. Palette knife. Oh yes, now actually something quite important. I don't know, you maybe can't see this from where you are, but because the chocolate icing, sorry, where are we going to? There you go. Sorry, because the chocolate icing was put in the cold room to try to speed the cooling, basically it has dulled the sheen. So it's better to let it actually, much better to let it cool naturally. Now you can just take the extra around the edge here. Scoop that up. We have to make extra to do the various chocolate things we want to do. So scoop that round. Now it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, but I'm trying to collect up that extra bit of icing there. Now, top and so take the, now to make the spider web, just take some of the white icing and you can just literally go round and round like this. It doesn't matter if it's not even if it's a bit wiggly, but you do have to have a cocktail stick just beside you in a moment so you can make the spider web shape. Now, here we go. Right, so may I take a cocktail stick, please? We have one here. That's lovely. I'll just give my hands a little quick wash. Now, it's also important to put on that white icing while the other icing is still soft, so that you can just show you here now. Take this, and so you go in, out, in, out, in, out, like that. so that it looks, in a minute or two, it looks like a spider's web. So there we are. So we can transfer this. Now, if we have some extra little, if you had some spiders, or if you have some little, can I take some little ones of these, or have you some others?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
We can pop a few of these onto, or if there's little thin ones, we can pop a few of these onto the top of the cake, like that. This is a great big fat one. Here, we'll put him at the back. That's lovely. And then we'll lift this off and pop it onto, we can lift it up and pop it onto, if you liked, you could put a doily or something, but maybe, should I put it straight on, then we put some nice leaves or something around. There we go. Hey, presto, there we go. So that's the little, turn it around towards the camera so you can see it. So that's the spider's web cake. So that's one. And also what you could do, if you liked there, is you could sprinkle it with, I want to go back to my, can I have my wizard's hats, please? Because I want to put the icing and the ones I just did, so that I can sprinkle them with a little cocoa and icing sugar, and that makes them look even more kind of dusty and all the rest. Thank you. Lovely. And now I think we have every coloured icing colouring here except bright orange. But if somebody makes me a little bright orange in a few minutes, we can do that. So what you can do with this, you could pipe a little bit of glacé icing, bright orange around there. Put a little. Actually, I have one over here that has. Look, this one I'll show you. Did this yesterday. That has a little bow on it, a little orange bow like that. So now, but put, if you like, you can put a little tiny bit of, so it looks like the hat's a bit dusty. So put a little bit of cocoa over the top. And then if you like, just a tiny, you need a very, very fine little sieve for this. I'll use this, but a smaller, finer one is better for it. So a tiny bit of icing sugar as well. And that's, so that gives you an extra little thing on it. Now we could, I suppose, in the absence of, have we got marigold petal actually? That would be quite nice too. I could put one of these, look, we can put a little shamrock in her, a little bit of wood sorrel in her hat. A little bit of, so that's quite cool, I think. There we go. So we let these cool down a bit. If you have a little marigold petal, we could maybe put it around as well, the bit of orange, which we associate with Halloween too. So we'll put these out on a nice plate in a couple of minutes, but I don't know whether you can see in the camera, but this icing this particular icing, which didn't go into the cold room, it was made separately, is much, much shinier. And it's not, they're both going to taste delicious, but it's much, much shinier. So we'll put those to the side for a moment, then we'll put them onto a nice big plate, and they're the hag's hats or the wizard's hats. So that's, so next, Pat, what would you like me to do? Lovely. So this is a completely different departure altogether. Next, I'm going to make a traditional Irish potato dish that is traditionally made and served, well, it's served around the year, but particularly at Halloween, and it's called colcannon. So that's literally mashed potato. You cook the potatoes in their jackets in well salted water, and when I say in their jackets, I mean in their skins, because easier to peel them when they're cooked, much more flavour and much less waste, which was very important. And then you just mash the potatoes, and then into that, mash the potatoes with boiling milk and some butter, and then when it's all lovely and light and fluffy, you cook some cabbage or some kale separately and stir that in and put it into a lovely big bowl, and then serve it piping hot with a lump of butter melting into the centre. So here we go. Lovely. Now, so here's the potatoes. They're already peeled. They were put through a moulie, that one there, but just to make a lovely sorry, I'll just take, if I could, maybe if you have a carving fork, or look here, I have a knife here. Carving, it's easier when you're peeling potatoes if you have just a 2-pronged fork than a 4-pronged, but honestly it doesn't matter. So now you see, that's lovely, thank you. These are our own homegrown potatoes, grown here organically on the farm with no pesticides or herbicides or anything in them. We in Ireland, we love our potatoes, and we particularly love this particular kind of potato, which is what we call a floury potato. So it's quite dry matter rather than waxy, and we particularly love it because it's an excuse to actually, it's an excuse to use lots and lots of butter, because we like lots of butter on our potatoes. So now you can just mash this with anything you like, with a potato masher or something, or if you have one of these, you can literally push it through like that. There it comes out lovely and fine. Now this is very important to mash the potatoes while they're hot, because otherwise it gets quite gluey. Now there are several traditional Irish potato dishes. Another one's called champ, and this one's called colcannon. But songs have been sung and poems have been written about colcannon and champ. So did you ever eat colcannon when it was made with yellow cream and something and pretty blended like a picture in a dream? So it just goes on and on, and it's a lovely song and a poem. May I have a wooden spoon just to beat this with, Pat, if I could? Now, so we...
What other green vegetables could you use in colcannon?
Oh, apart from kale, which is, of course, in season at this time of the year, you could also use cabbage, particularly something like a Savoy. Oh, fancy that. That's kale. But a Savoy cabbage. So you'd cook it in plenty of boiling salted water, and just until it's lovely and soft, and the same with the kale. So sprinkle in, but it needs quite a lot of salt and some pepper. And then we need lots of milk. The milk needs to be boiling. So, oh, lovely. Make it nice. And now may I have you have some kale here already. Now, be careful when you put the milk in, not to put, can I turn that off for a second? That's lovely. Lovely creamy milk for this. And now I want to show you the different types of kale we have here. This is, this one's the most common kale. This is a curly kale. This one here is similar, but it's got a purple, it's called red Russian kale actually. It's got a kind of purple the spine in the center. This one here then has various names. It's called, really appropriate for tonight, it's called dinosaur kale, and or also it's called black Tuscan kale, or if you want to go into Italian, cavolo nero. So you'd pull the kale off this central stalk like that. The same with this, just pull it off like that. You can also chop up the stalks, by the way, and cook them too. You could, and actually I'll put those, why don't I give that to the hens, because they'd love it as well anyway. But then you cook it in plenty of boiling salted water, and which I have here. Now, can I just see, I need something to get this out with.
I'm wondering if you want to mix it in that, it might be easier to mix it in that, or do you want to put it in the bowl?
No, I'll put it into the bowl.
Yeah.
So I'll come over like this here.
I'll give you some.
And have we any of this? Oh no, I really plenty. That's super duper. So, and have we any of our own lovely Jersey butter? If not, I can use this lovely butter, which is lovely Irish butter anyway. So put a nice big dollop of butter into this. Now, oh my goodness, how good is this? So this is made particularly around Halloween. You'd have a great big bowl of this for supper. Wasn't expensive, very nutritious. Of course, kale is in season at the moment, so you'd have had that growing outside in your little back garden or the haggard. And then you put this, you put it into a nice big lovely hot bowl, and and I have another one here actually I can use. So look, now I want to taste it, make sure that it's seasoned enough. So you put a great big bowl of this and put a blob of butter into the center, melting into the center, and everybody would take their fork and they would take some of this colcannon, and they would, thanks very much, they would actually, they'd take the colcannon, and every forkful would be dipped in the lake of melting butter in the center. But before you did that, before you ate a bite, you had to put some into a bowl and take it out and put it on the windowsill for the fairies, because if you didn't give some to the fairies would jinx you all year long, bring you bad luck all year long. So, this is such comforting, delicious food. So I'm just going to put some into this bowl here. And of course you could reheat this if you wanted. You could reheat it if you wanted to. So that's some lovely Irish pottery. This pottery is made down in Kerry actually by, it's called Fermoil pottery, and I thought it was particularly apt for today because it's all sort of uneven there around the edge. Now we want to put a nice little blob of butter into the center of this. Thank you very much. To melt into the center like that. So that's the colcannon. Don't forget to put some out in the window sill for the fairies, otherwise you'll be in terrible trouble. Okay, so that's the colcannon. Now, very traditional, that and the barn brack. How is my barn brack doing, by the way? That's the timer for the barn brack, absolutely on cue. So I'll put, we'll put that there. Okay, we'll check the barn brack. And then next I am going on to the pumpkin soup. Now, okay, let's
needs another.
And I'll take the, if you have it, I'm going to take the, ooh, I touched something there. Lovely, perfect. So we'll take this out, we'll put it onto a wire rack, and then I'll take a little, a little sugar, it's called bun wash, but it's a little syrup, and I'll just put it over the top. It doesn't actually, I think the recipe you have doesn't say this, but just it's sugar and water, and just look, brush it over the top like that, and this gives the barn brack a lovely sticky shiny top like that. So we let this cool off now, put it out on a wire rack. If you want to keep it for a couple of days, leave the wrapping on it, and then unwrap it when you're going to do it, and we cut this into thickish slices and we slather it with butter, and this would keep for several days, or indeed a week for that matter. I just because Camilla has done such a mess, I've got nowhere to put anything, but thank you, Camilla. She also did my spooky face, which I hope is very spooky because it was meant to be spooky. There we are. Now we'll put this to the side, and next pumpkin soup. Now, oh my goodness, look at this. How come we didn't see you doing these? Look. Now, so these are some little cupcakes, and you've done a little icing on top of these, Tiffin, and then we have lots of little pumpkins and bones and scary eyes and spooky other things just to decorate it up. Well, now, next I'm going to make soup, which seems much more, and then I want to just put that into the blacker dish with the two ears. But yeah. Now, maybe I can, I'm loath to, let's make a space up there and I can move these out of the way because this looks so great. Now, good. That's lovely. We'll bring it back in a few minutes. But let me pull these in here for a minute because I made that chocolate soil and then actually forgot not forgot, but I didn't do anything with it. Look, here's the chocolate soil out on a piece of little piece of rock, a little slice, and then we put out the chocolate soil on top of it, and then just put some of the little meringue pukas on top. And again, if you have them or whatever, you can just put a few little bits and pieces. That's the wood sorrel, but you don't have to. Just if you have that, it's nice. There we are. And this one has some little yellow flowers on it. So there we go. So that's the chocolate soil. So you can eat both the meringues and the chocolate soil. And I would definitely have a bowl of cream to go with that as well. Next, pumpkin soup. Pumpkin is totally associated, of course, with Halloween, and many of you will have your pumpkins in already. And I was shocked recently to read that basically over 40% of people in the UK, there was a survey done recently, don't realise that you can, when you scoop out your pumpkin and make it into a jack-o'-lantern, that basically you can eat the pumpkin, you can cook it and make lots of different things with it, from a pumpkin pie, which I was tossing up whether I'd make this evening or not, pumpkin soup, you can roast the pumpkin in cubes or in great big slices, and what else can you make with pumpkin? Anyway, you can do, of course, oh yeah, the other thing is that you can use the seeds, of course, but the seeds, you can roast them, but actually in fact, they are dinosaurs' teeth, aren't they? That's what they are, right, okay. So now, because we loosened this a little bit earlier, so you can cut around the top here, it's all cut around like that, be careful, then take off the lid, and look how beautiful it is inside. Pat, I need a bowl, and I need a spoon that has what you really need is a cheap spoon for this, that has a sort of pointed, almost a pointed top. So look, just scrape out, first and foremost, you could even, maybe actually, do you know something, it's easier to do it with your fingers. Just scrape out the seeds and everything like that. Great big seeds, so you could imagine that these were, whoops-a-daisy, dinosaurs or something or other's teeth. Vampires' teeth. So those are, of course, delicious. You can, Pat, you have taken those and you're going to toss them in a little olive oil.
Olive oil and a little bit of sea salt, a good pinch of sea salt, actually. Yeah. And I'm going to put them on a little tray and roast them in the oven at about 120 to 130 degrees, just so they get nice and crisp and slightly golden.
Yeah, and then you could call them roasted pumpkin seeds, but certainly today they're going to be vampire's teeth. Now look, and there's another bit here, we can take this as well. They're all the little filaments, so you could painstakingly get the kids to pick out all of these, the seeds, and as Pat did there, a little bit of olive oil on them and into the oven to roast them. Now, if you want, then you can scoop out lots and lots of the flesh here, of course, and I want to get some more of that out. And then you can use the flesh to make soup or to make pumpkin pie or whatever you want. But literally, you sort of just do it like this. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to take the whole lot out because I'm going to use this for a tureen, and I'm going to put the soup I make back into it and serve it in it. And we'll have great fun with that. But you could also actually make a lovely pumpkin stew or a lamb and pumpkin stew or something and put that back into it. Or a curry. Or in fact, what's also delicious is to make a risotto, a lovely rice risotto. And I was at a wonderful wedding once in Venice, of all places. What on earth is going on outside?
It's a hand blender.
Oh, it's a hand... Right, okay. I thought somebody was actually using a chainsaw or something to just... Oh, that's really very good for Halloween. Now, look, you can keep on taking this out. And here we have our tureen, perfect tureen. I don't know, I hope the lid hasn't gone away. Here it is. And there's the lid that we can put back and we'll find exactly how it went like that. And I'm going to keep this. You could also, if you want, if you're putting a stew back into this or something, you could put this into the oven like this. Yeah, salt and pepper if you wanted some chili flakes, etc. And actually bake it in the oven until it's sort of semi-soft, and then you can put your stew into it, and then you can scrape the lovely pumpkin as well, so you have vegetable and things. So that would be lovely. Now, Pat, so we're going to make a soup. Now, there's loads of different recipes for pumpkin soup. I have at least 3 or 4. And this one that we have here, we start off by melting a little butter. I'd like to turn it up a bit. Melting a little butter in the saucepan. And I noticed that it says to melt the butter in the recipe. It doesn't tell you how much butter. So you need 2 ounces or 50 grams of butter for this. And then melt the butter. Then chop up some onion and potato and the pumpkin. Okay? And so we want 1 cup of chopped onion, 1 cup of chopped potato, 3 cups of pumpkin or squash or a mixture or whatever. And then we want about 5 cups of stock. So that could be vegetable stock or it could be chicken stock if you want. Now, if you want some flavouring, so you can add in, I think in this recipe it says to add lots of lovely thyme leaves. So it would be a pumpkin and thyme leaf soup. But also pumpkin really benefits from having, you have some thyme as well, Pat, if I could. Some spices. So I've got here some crushed cumin and coriander, or you can buy it ground, but it's always fresher if you roast it and grind it yourself. So add that in. But it could be just herbs, or it could be a mixture of herbs and spices. I want to get the rest of that out because it's really lovely. And look, this is for those of you looking from Mexico. This molcajete, as you call it in Mexico, pestle and mortar, came all the way from Mexico. There we are, imagine that. Now, so pop that in. I'll give you this. And then you cook this with a little, maybe a little paper lid on it, on a low heat until the potato and the onion are soft and the pumpkin soft but not coloured. So this, let me just show you now. This has been cooking. I'll take it, the time is coming, is it? Yeah. Lovely. And so that's nice and soft now. And in the meantime, while that's sweating down, as we call it, then add in, heat your stock. So this is, I think, actually chicken stock, isn't it? Make sure you taste the stock. Make sure. It's like the chicken broth is so delicious. So we make stock here at the school every single day from the bones and the carcass of the chicken. When they're, or if they're old hens, rather than, when they're finished laying after about 2 years, we then keep them and use them to make a wonderful broth or stock. So now let's add in the stock. Now with any soup, the quicker it's made, the fresher it tastes. So when this is pretty much boiling, we'll add in some of the stock like that. And then if you wanted to, you could add, if you weren't dairy free, you could add a little cream into it as well, which would be lovely. We'd bring it back to the boil, cook it for another couple of minutes, just until it's completely, the pumpkin and the onion and the potato are fully cooked. So that doesn't take very long. So maybe I'll put it on the higher jet at the back there. And then you can serve it with all those chunky bits in it if you want to. Or else you could whiz it up and liquidize it. So you can either have a smooth soup, and then you want lots of lovely chopped parsley or something to put into it as well. But taste it, make sure the seasoning is good. So that's going to take another minute or two to make. So now, while I'm waiting for that, why don't I do, I have 2 more things I'm doing for you. How are we doing on time? That's good, thank you. Good, I can't believe it. There we are, good. We wanted to do as many things for you as possible. So next I'm going to make, there's a lot of dragons around here this evening, so I'm going to make some dragon's eggs. Okay, now this is, so the couple of steps in this. There's some beets or beetroot in this. So I'll take one with the skin on if you have it. Oh, it's in here, right, okay, right in front of me. Now, so there are 2 parts to these dragon's eggs. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to I'm going to cook an egg. I just want to make sure, I know I didn't say this, Pat, I want to actually hard boil an egg because somebody asked me a while ago, how do you hard boil an egg? Let's fill this up with hot water. Lovely. So to hard boil an egg, you take an egg that's several days old. Now, this is not most people's problem, actually, because a lot of the time when you buy an egg, eggs in your ordinary shop, it'll be maybe 4 or 5 days old before it gets on the shelf. But because it needs to be, if you're hard boiling an egg, if they're very fresh, they're a nightmare to peel. So an egg that's a couple of days old, and we put it into boiling, well-salted water, bring it back to the boil and cook it for 10 minutes. And then it should be nicely set. You have to be careful with hard-boiled eggs, because if you kind of put them in and after a bit you think, well, they must be cooked by now, or you could have an egg with that sort of a kind of greeny ring around the outside, and that means it's overcooked. Now, the other bit that we need for this is some beetroot. So there's 2 recipes in one here, because this recipe is actually for pickled beetroot, which is really worth knowing how to do at home. So beets, you put them into, give them a wash, and put them into, cover them with cold water, nice bit of salt in it, bring it back to the boil and cook them until the skin will rub off easily. Now, this one rubs off really easily here. So just rub it off like that. Now, you're going to be really in the spirit of Halloween after this, because this your hands are, if you're worried about your hands looking purple, well then you could wear, I suppose, rubber gloves. But just put you can rub off the skin and then either slice it, or you could do it into cubes or into little wedges, whatever way you like. And there we go. Here's another one here. This one now, oh yeah, no, it's okay. The skin did rub off it. I was going to say could maybe have done for a few more minutes, but it's okay. Look, like that. Now, so this is the Biscuit, delicious as it is. The liquid is quite, obviously purpley colour at this stage. Now, we need to make a pickle to put this into. And this is really handy because once you make the pickle, the beets will keep. I have beetroot juice everywhere. It's beginning to look like a crime scene here. So I just need to turn this on underneath it. Yeah, lovely. I have that on. I just need to wash my hands because this is beginning to look. Wait, no, it's no problem. There we are. Yeah, I'm okay. That's so, just to rub off the beetroot off a little bit. This, by the way, your hands will look, dyed for a while, but it washes off after a bit, so don't get too concerned. So they're actually splodges. Look on my recipe and everything, there's splodges of beetroot juice. So this is perfect for this demonstration. Now, so for the actual pickle for the beetroot that's going to go to make my dragon's eggs, for the pickle, basically you need some 450 milliliters of water and 25 grams of sugar. Is that right?
No.
Oh no, yes it is, yeah. 450 milliliters of water and 8 ounces of sugar. Sorry, the actual gram mixture is wrong in this recipe. It should be 120 or 225, should it? Sorry, just if you have your recipe close to you there, this would be very important in this now. So I just realized there's a misprint with the sugar. It should be 8 ounces, 1 cup, or 225 grams, not 25 grams. And it is 450 milliliters of water, 16 fluid ounces of water, or 2 cups. Now, is the right amount of sugar in here?
Yeah.
Definitely it is. Right. Okay, so we put the sugar and water into a saucepan and bring it up to the boil. And then when it comes to the boil, add in some vinegar into it. Now the vinegar, the sugar, and the sugar will of course help this to preserve this. And there was salt in the water when we were cooking the things. So in, like that. And I'm using white wine vinegar actually, although years ago people would have just used ordinary malt vinegar, which is a bit fiercer, but the wine vinegar is lovely. And this is a lovely organic wine vinegar too actually. So look, just pour that over the beetroot. Now, so you're getting 2 things here. You have your pickled beetroot, which you leave this sitting overnight probably until the actual juice was completely dark purpley colour. And oftentimes people eat the beetroot and you might have some of the pickle left over. Now, by the way, the pickle makes an incredible beetroot lemonade. So in other words, you can add some, it's kind of sweety and vinegary, so you could also add in some sparkling water into that if you want to, a little bit more sugar, a bit of lemon, the juice of a few lemons, and you can fiddle around it. There's a recipe in one of my books, so that's a lovely beetroot lemonade. Of course, they ferment it in Russia, and it's beetroot kvass. Yeah. But now, pardon?
Or shrub.
Or a shrub, yes, as well. Now, have you another? Lovely, thanks very much. Thought you had another question there. Now, let's see the soup. Give me a. Thank you very much. Just see whether this is. Yes, it's pretty much. I'm just flattening to see whether it's fully cooked. Oh my God, it's so good. Says me. I'm getting hungry myself. Now, so of course we could serve it like this, but what we'll do is we'll whiz this up in a liquidizer. Yeah. Let's have the juice, all of that juice done for me, and it's all ready. Now, so we'll do that up in a liquidizer. I just want to go back to this we have eggs actually cooked, but I'm just bringing the water to the boil there to hard boil an egg, but I just have some eggs cooked. If I could take, oh, here we are. So when they're hard boiled, 10 minutes, remember, take them out, drain off the water, take them out, then put them into a bowl under the sink, under the tap in the sink, and run the tap over them until they cool down. And then just like this, I need the pickle, and I need the not that pickle. I need the pickle juice from before, from the earlier ones, beetroot. Or if you haven't got it, I'll use that. Yeah, lovely. Okay, super. So we'll just peel off. Look, crack it around the edge. Peel it off like that, and how easily the peel comes off. Now, if this was a fresh egg, you'd have to painstakingly take every single little bit of shell off it. And now, lovely, lovely. And the ones that are already done. Yeah. Now, another one again. Now, you can put your eggs, then hard-boiled eggs, if you want to, into a jar. And this is a Kilner jar. Of course, make sure it's spotlessly clean and dry and all of that. Rinse off anything. Now pop that in. And normally, this is the one I've just made, but I would normally be using the beetroot pickle that was several days old. And it would even be, this one is still quite pale because the beetroot is only in it for a couple of minutes. But just pour it over like this and leave this then for a couple of days or a week or whatever. And hey presto, you can see this one is darker. And then what happens is it dyes the albumin, the white of the egg. I'll take a plate if I could, Pat, for this. Thanks a million. Look, hey, how impressive is that? So it dyes them a spooky purple colour. So I'll take a little white plate if I could to start with. I'll have that in a minute, but just so I can show the colour on it. Lovely. That's lovely. And a little, thanks Pat, and a little, if I could have a little knife or something as well. Now, no, this one will do me fine. Now we just slice this, and you can see you have these lovely eggs that are sort of purple on the outside, a little white underneath there, and then yellow in the center. So we're going to serve these on a little bed of watercress. Perhaps I'll use this here. If you like, could be watercress, or could be something. Now, was I going to use this for something else? I can't remember. Now, look, we'll take a little bed of some lovely fresh watercress that comes out of, this is wild watercress from a lovely clean local stream. So we'll take it like that, and then take, here we go, might put 3 of them on this. And then if you want to, you can put a little mayonnaise into the center. Look like that. Mayonnaise is really good with it. This is a homemade mayonnaise, but make it yourself. It only takes a couple of minutes, or else you can buy a mayonnaise. But this is really, really delicious. And then these are dragon's eggs now. You can have this with a lovely crusty white bread or some toast. So they're the dragon's eggs. So we'll do a few more of those later. Now, and then now back to my soup, and this hasn't come to the boil yet, the water. I'll take this to the side. Now, and then this is ready. I could actually, what would be a good idea is to have that a little bit warm, but it doesn't matter. So back to the soup. Is this my soup? Here it is. I've been abandoned. There we are. Good. And this is all the soup. Is it? I have.
We have more. Yeah.
If I could have the rest of the soup, that would be lovely. Good, good, good. And so when I have the rest of the soup, make sure it's boiling. Lovely. Oh yes. I put this on here as well. And Now, just bring this up to the boil. I have another one here. I want to taste this as well. Doing a thing, just make sure. Always taste at the end to make sure you're happy with the flavour. It's absolutely delicious. So we've got a second lot made so that we can fill up our pumpkin. And we put this on a lovely, with some lovely leaves or something around it, if we have it. It doesn't matter if we haven't. And so I'm just going to whiz this up to the boil, pour it in here, and then you can bring this to the table and everybody tuck in. So maybe we haven't got a round one, have we? If we haven't a round one, doesn't matter. Finally, why don't I talk about, I have one final thing to do, and I know we're running right up against the time. If we have a little round thing, we'll take it. Or else I'll do this here. Yeah. Now, finally, I'm going to make a vampire's lemonade. There's a lot of vampires and ghouls and things going around the place at the moment. Yeah. That would be lovely. We can put it on that. And put a few nice little leaves around the edge as well.
No problem.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now the vampire's lemonade is very simple. You can either, if you can get a lovely ruby grapefruit. You know the way sometimes the grapefruits can be very, very red grapefruit. It can be very, very red inside. That's what you're looking for. If you have a ruby one and it's sort of palish red colour, that looks lovely. Look, I lift it up a little bit for you, Tiffin. Oh, no, I lift it up and then you can put them in.
Perfect, thank you.
Just with regard to pumpkin, is there any particular pumpkin?
Oh, yes. Now, pumpkins vary a lot. We have lots of different pumpkins that we grow, and some of them are very orange in colour, and others then tend to be a paler in colour. In fact, the one that we used was a paler in colour. So which are your favourite ones?
I love the curry pumpkins.
Curry, actually, it's a smaller one, but it really has lots of lovely. That's a little curry pumpkin. That's got a lot of flavour.
I mean, some people will have difficulty sourcing pumpkins at this time of year.
Sparkling water, please.
Squash is a very good replacement for any dishes that we mentioned.
What?
A butternut squash is a very good
Yes.
replacement for any of the dishes that we've mentioned.
Yeah, and I've just, yeah, exactly. And we've got lots and lots of different ones. I've suddenly had a blank of a lot of the names of them. But anyway, now back to this vampire's lemonade. So squeeze out the juice out of the ruby grapefruit if possible. And if it's not red enough, do you know what you could do? You could put, oh yeah, don't go away with those, they're great. You could, if you haven't got if it's not red enough, if you have a pomegranate, you could juice a pomegranate and put that in as well. And that makes it redder again. Now, into that's the juice, you add some syrup, that's equal quantities of sugar and water. May I have a little spoon there if I could? Equal quantities of sugar and water. And then, that should be quite, and then we'll add in some sparkling water. That's the syrup, and then some sparkling water to make it all fizzy and lovely. Just want to make sure, I'm doing this slightly by eye now. So that's plenty. And so this would be delicious, but Pat has had too much time in his hands this afternoon. And he's been making a little vampire teeth. Okay, so these are almonds with a little, I think you put a little colouring or something into it. And also we meant to do them, but I think we've run out of time now. You know, we had some of them there. Actually, I think Tiffin has some of them. Look, he had some of them on these little cupcakes. So you could put those into the ice as well, and you'd have the little eyeball looking up at you, which would be scary. So look, we'll put some of this into, oh yeah, there's the, look, these Yokies drive me to the drink, these juicers. I really think it's worth investing in one of those little electric juicers. They're not terribly expensive, but honestly, by the time you've juiced everything on that now, you go mad. There we are. Now, so we'll pour some, I'll take a little cloth for around here. Pour some into, could even be redder than this now. And now, why don't we put some of these vampire's teeth, float some of these in it to be extra ghoulish. There we are. Now, So I know this Halloween is quite different to other Halloweens. You can't go trick-and-treating as one might have done, as one would have done other years. By the way, originally trick-and-treating was trick and threat. In other words, if you don't come up with a trick or as for me, there's a threat that they do you, cause some mischief. So that was the original thing. It turned into trick or treat. So now let's take the let's take the pumpkin, and we'll pour the Ooh! Ooh! It's already full with the soup, and in it are also the toasted pumpkin seeds, which have now turned into dragon's teeth or something. I forget whose teeth it is. Dragon's teeth anyway. What? Vampires? I don't know whether they're vampires or ghouls or dragons. I'm so confused at this stage. So may I have a list of what I did for a second? Yep. Thank you very much. So that looks lovely. Of course, actually this will keep it lovely and warm. So now, just to remind you again, the tea brack, we could, these are little individual, are these 3 little small ones that we have here. Let's put, thank you. Hardly enough room to put everything. Oh, that looks lovely. Thank you so much. So we made some Irish tea brack. So those of you who are from Ireland living abroad, make sure to make this. This is a real taste of home. As is the colcannon, with the butter, as you can see, melting into the centre. Very traditional on Halloween in Ireland. And don't forget to give some to the fairies. Then we made some witch's soup in a pumpkin shell with roasted pumpkin seeds. These are the little spooky pukas with that magic chocolate soil that we made literally in minutes. Then these are the dragon's eggs, absolutely delicious with a little, we particularly like it with the lovely Ballymaloe brown bread that we make, brown yeast bread, but any lovely brown soda bread that you make would be lovely. Spiderweb cake, what happened with spiderweb cake? Oh, here, hey presto, it's back. There's the spiderweb cake with the, oh look there, oh my little, skeleton is falling over here, this fellow. Right, and then we have the Halloween hats. Where are they? Oh, here they are. Halloween hats with which Tiffin has added little bows onto and all the rest of it. And then this one for people starting off with the piping bag. Very easy to make a little spider on top like that. And look at all of these little cupcakes and more chocolate soil around the outside. And then the other thing we made was some vampires lemonade. So there we are. I think I've run slightly over at the time, but I wanted to be, just before I say goodbye to you all and thank you all for joining us from all those countries all over the world. And I'm particularly impressed by Mozambique. I've never been to Mozambique and definitely want to go to Mozambique as soon as we can travel again, which hopefully won't be too long, but also soft spot for many other parts of the world, including India, Mexico, etc. Just wanted to tell you that since COVID-19, of course, everybody is thinking outside the box and developing different areas of business. So we've developed a whole list and continue to develop more and more online courses. And this is one of those. The next one coming up in a few weeks' time is canapes, just many, many delicious little bites to have with drinks or around Christmas, which hopefully we'll be able to celebrate in a more fulsome way. And we've also launched an online membership, Ballymaloe Cookery School online membership thing, so that you can check that out on our website. You can either join up for a month and see how you like it, or you can take a membership for a full year. And we have, of course, lots of online things like this, some surprises. And then I also do what we call fireside chats with some of my great friends in the food world all over, literally all over the world. The next one coming up actually will be with my lovely friends, the Honeys from Honey & Co, Sarit and Itamar. And that's in a couple of weeks' time, but that's on our Ballymaloe Cookery School online. So can I say a huge thank you to Pat and also to Tiffin, and thank you for joining us from all over the world. Come and see us in real life here in Ireland at Ballymaloe, down in the south coast near the sea, as soon as you can travel again. We look forward to, remind me where we first met. We met online just before Halloween. So can I wish you all a very happy Halloween, a spooky Halloween, and hopefully you won't miss your trick and treating because you're going to have so much fun in the kitchen. Now these are just some of the things we could do, many more, and also remember to take photographs of what you make, and my email address is darina@cookingisfun.ie. So you can send me photographs of what you did, and or if you have any problems with any of the recipes, any little tweaks, just contact us. It's very easy. Send an email, darina@cookingisfun.ie, and we'll reply, won't we? Yes? Okay, happy Halloween, everybody, and bye. Bye. There we are. Good.